안녕하세요.
The Kang Group building, a glass skyscraper in the heart of Seoul, gleamed under the morning sunlight. On the top floor, a luxurious meeting room awaited the arrival of the most powerful man in the company, Kang Ji-hoon. Known for his coldness and perfectionism, Ji-hoon walked through the spotless corridors, his presence radiating authority. The employees turned their eyes away, whispering to each other about his demanding temperament and his reputation for never tolerating mistakes. To many, he was an unyielding leader. To others, an unreachable man. On the lower floor, Han Soo-min hurried to organize a stack of documents in the filing room. Her job as an administrative assistant was her livelihood, and any mistake could cost her the job. The salary wasn't great, but it helped support her mother and younger brother. That morning, she was especially busy as she needed to deliver important reports to the finance department before the executive meeting began. With time flying, she balanced a tower of folders in her arms and ran toward the elevator. The doors opened just as she entered. Not looking ahead, her body collided with something solid and strong. Before she could react, she felt the weight of the document slipping from her hands and flying through the air. The papers cascaded around her, covering the floor and, to her horror, the CEO himself, Kang Ji-hoon. The silence in the elevator was tense. Soo-min felt a chill run down her spine as she lifted her gaze and found Ji-hoon's sharp eyes, which now stared at her with an unreadable expression. He wore a perfectly tailored suit, and some papers had landed on his shoulders and the floor around him. "Oh my God, I'm so sorry." She quickly knelt to pick up the papers, her face burning with embarrassment. Her heart pounded in her chest, and her hands shook as she tried to stack the documents again. Ji-hoon let out a short sigh and slowly bent down, picking up one of the reports. He flipped through it with an analytical gaze before finally speaking. "Is this how you always deliver documents? Seems like quite an inefficient method." Soo-min's eyes widened, unsure if he was being sarcastic or just cruelly direct. It was an accident. I'm sorry, sir." Ji-hoon watched her for a moment, noticing how she desperately tried to gather the papers, her body tense and her breathing fast. He saw her slender fingers trembling slightly. Something in the sincerity of her nervousness made him hesitate. With a fluid movement, he organized the remaining papers and handed them to her without saying anything more. The elevator doors opened on the CEO's floor, and Ji-hoon stepped out without looking back. Soo-min remained there, still kneeling on the floor, holding the documents and feeling the heat rise on her face. "What a wonderful start to the day," she murmured, closing her eyes for a moment. She let out a deep sigh before standing up and exiting the elevator, unaware that this unexpected encounter would change her life forever. The buzz in the halls of Kang Group intensified in the days following the elevator incident. Although Ji-hoon maintained his usual impassive expression, the more observant noticed that his gaze lingered a little longer on a certain employee. Han Soo-min, for her part, did everything she could to avoid crossing paths with the CEO, fearing that any new mistake could seal her fate at the company. However, fate seemed to enjoy playing games with her. That morning, while organizing reports in the administrative room, Ji-hoon's deep authoritative voice echoed through the space. "Han Soo-min." She froze. Her name was rarely called, and never by the CEO himself. Turning slowly, she met his penetrating gaze. Ji-hoon held up a document between his fingers. "This is incomplete. Explain." Soo-min swallowed hard before grabbing the paper. Her eyes quickly scanned the content, realizing that an essential attachment was missing. I must have forgotten to attach it. I'll correct it immediately, sir." "How long have you been working here?" he asked, crossing his arms. "6 months, sir." Ji-hoon watched her for a moment, as if contemplating something. "Come to my office in 30 minutes. I want to review this document with you." The tension in the room immediately escalated. The other employees cast subtle glances, and Soo-min felt her breath falter. CEO Kang never called administrative assistants to private meetings. This could not be a good sign. When the time came, she made her way to the top floor of the building, where the imposing CEO's office was located. The dark wood and the wide windows revealing the city of Seoul created an intimidating backdrop. Ji-hoon stood by the desk, reviewing some documents. Without looking up, he gestured to the chair in front of him. "Sit down, let's go over this together." She obeyed, her heart pounding. Ji-hoon began flipping through the document with her, pointing out details and asking questions. Min's initial nervousness quickly faded when she realized that he was giving her advice, not just criticizing. There was something unexpectedly patient in the way he spoke. "You have potential. Pay more attention to the details. I want to see you grow here," he said, closing the folder. "This will be a test. If you do well, I might give you more responsibilities." Min's heart raced. Was he betting on her? Why? Was it just professionalism, or was there something more? Her gaze met his for a moment longer than it should have. Ji-hoon blinked, almost imperceptibly, before looking away and turning his attention back to his tablet. "You may go." Min stood up, her legs trembling. As she left the room, she realized that for the first time, CEO Kang Ji-hoon didn't seem so unreachable. But was this a path too dangerous to follow? Life at Kang Group continued its usual course, but something had changed. Han Soo-min began to be called to the CEO's office more frequently, under the pretext of reviewing documents and administrative tasks. However, the silent tension between her and Kang Ji-hoon grew with each meeting. The looks he gave her seemed to last a little longer than necessary, and their interactions carried a tone that was less formal than before. Still, Soo-min knew that all of this was dangerous. She was just an employee, and he was her boss. An unreachable man, belonging to a world completely different from hers. Even so, her heart stubbornly beat faster every time Ji-hoon's piercing eyes locked with hers. That night, while everyone else was leaving the building, Soo-min was still stuck in the finance department, finalizing a late balance sheet. The computer screen displayed numbers that were already dancing before her tired eyes. Silence dominated the floor, until firm footsteps echoed across the carpet. She looked up and held her breath upon seeing Ji-hoon standing at the doorway, his hands in the pockets of his impeccable suit. "You're still here?" His voice was low but carried a tone of curiosity. Soo-min tried not to appear too nervous. "I just need to finish this review, sir." Ji-hoon walked over to her desk and picked up one of the reports. "You work too much. No one will recognize your efforts if you end up fainting from exhaustion." She blinked, surprised by the unexpectedly personal observation. "I don't care about recognition. I just need to do my job right." Ji-hoon remained silent for a moment, his gaze intensely scanning her face. "How long have you been with this company?" 6 months, she replied, feeling uncomfortable under his attention. "And how far do you want to go?" he asked, leaning slightly over the desk, his face dangerously close to hers. Soo-min's heart raced. I want to grow here, but based on my efforts, not on favors." Ji-hoon raised an eyebrow slightly, as if her answer had somehow surprised him. Then, unexpectedly, he let out a sigh and closed the report with a firm motion. "Come with me." "What? You haven't had dinner, have you?" Min's eyes widened. Her boss, the feared CEO, was suggesting they go out together? Her logic screamed that refusing would be the sensible choice. But something in Ji-hoon's expression, a glimpse of exhaustion behind his iron facade, made her hesitate. I shouldn't, but..." Ji-hoon raised an eyebrow, a hint of a smile tugging at the corner of his lips. "But you want to. Let's go. It's an order." She sighed, knowing she had just stepped into dangerous territory. Dinner would not just be a meal. It would be a turning point. The restaurant Ji-hoon chose wasn't luxurious, but it still exuded elegance. Soo-min felt out of place, as though she had crossed a portal into another world. Sitting across from each other, the CEO ordered a refined dish and a bottle of wine, while she chose something simpler. During the meal, the formality between them began to dissipate. Ji-hoon asked questions about her life, her family, and her dreams. She, initially reluctant, ended up opening up more than she had expected. When they finished eating, Ji-hoon leaned back in his chair and observed Soo-min for a moment, his gaze unreadable. "I don't usually do this," he said quietly. "Do what?" she asked, confused. "Take an interest in someone's life like this." Soo-min's heart skipped a beat. This wasn't just a dinner. It was a warning that something dangerous was forming between them. And for the first time, she wondered if she would have the strength to pull away before it was too late. The next morning, Han Soo-min arrived at the office feeling different. The dinner with Kang Ji-hoon had been an unexpected moment. The conversations, the exchanged glances, the atmosphere thick with something forbidden. It all continued to echo in her mind. She knew she needed to keep her distance, but the CEO's approach was like a magnetic field pulling her closer. While she was organizing some documents on her desk, a murmur began to spread across the floor. Ji-hoon's name was being whispered among the employees, and when Soo-min looked up, she found Mi-rae, one of the veteran assistants, watching her with a look of warning. "You should be more careful, Soo-min," Mi-rae said, walking over. "The walls in this office have ears. Last night's dinner has already reached the wrong ears." Soo-min's heart began to race. "What do you mean by that?" "Vice President Kang Soo-jin found out that you went out with the CEO, and she did not like it one bit." Soo-min's blood ran cold. Kang Soo-jin, Ji-hoon's older sister, was known for her impeccable demeanor and her determination to keep the family and the company under control. If she was upset, it meant trouble. Before she could fully process the information, her station phone rang. The voice of Ji-hoon's personal assistant came through the line. "President Kang wants to see you in his office, now." Soo-min felt her legs falter for a moment. Taking a deep breath, she walked down the hall toward the imposing door of the CEO's office. Upon entering, she found Ji-hoon standing by the window, his hands in his pockets and a tense expression on his face. "Close the door," he ordered without turning. She obeyed, feeling the air around her grow heavy. "You called for me, President Kang?" He finally turned, his dark eyes carrying something between concern and frustration. "My sister found out about our dinner. She didn't like it, and frankly, I expected that." Soo-min swallowed hard. "President Kang, I didn't mean to cause any problems. If you prefer, I can request a transfer to another department." Ji-hoon furrowed his brow. "Transfer? Because of rumors? I don't work that way, Han Soo-min. I'm not going to pretend nothing happened, because it did. I wanted that dinner, and you wanted it too." She looked away, unable to deny it. "But my family," he continued, running a hand through his hair in a rare gesture of frustration. "My sister and the board want me to marry someone suitable, a woman who strengthens business ties, who brings advantages." Soo-min's heart tightened. "And I'm a problem for that." Ji-hoon laughed without humor. "You're not a problem, Soo-min. You're the first real thing that's come into my life in a long time." Those words hit her like thunder. She felt the weight of the situation settling on her shoulders. It wasn't just about the two of them. It was about a structure, a hierarchy, and above all, about the feelings they both could no longer ignore. The office door suddenly burst open. Kang Soo-jin entered without being announced, her imposing presence freezing the air. "So it's true," she said, her sharp eyes fixed on Soo-min. "You really think you can get involved with my brother without consequences?" Soo-min held her breath. Ji-hoon stepped forward, his expression hardening. "Soo-jin, you don't have the right to come in here and make accusations." The vice president crossed her arms, her challenging gaze unwavering. "I have the duty to protect this family, and you're making a mistake." Soo-min felt the tension multiply in the room. She knew that this moment would define her future at the company, and possibly with Ji-hoon. Her heart raced as she prepared for what was to come. The tension between Kang Ji-hoon and his sister, Kang Soo-jin, hung in the air like a storm about to break. Han Soo-min felt the sharp presence of the vice president, her piercing gaze fixed on her as if she were an intruder. Every word spoken in that office could seal her fate. "Do you think you can challenge our family, Ji-hoon?" Soo-jin crossed her arms, her impeccable posture reflecting years of absolute control over the affairs of Kang Group. "Our father built this empire based on strategic alliances, and you want to throw all of that away for an employee?" Ji-hoon stood firm. "You don't decide my life, Soo-jin, and it's not up to you to determine who I can or cannot love." Soo-min felt the impact of those words, and her heart raced. Love? Did he really say that? Uncertainty and fear took over her thoughts. She knew she was treading on dangerous ground. "Love?" Soo-jin scoffed, her voice dripping with disdain. "Do you think love pays debts, sustains a company, guarantees the stability of an empire? Stop acting like a lovesick teenager, Ji-hoon. You have a role to play." Jae-hoon stepped closer to his sister, his expression darkening. I'm tired of living by our family's rules. For years, I've done everything they expected of me. But this time, I choose for myself. Soo-jin huffed in frustration. She then turned to Soo-min. And you? Do you plan to keep feeding this illusion? You have no idea what you're getting yourself into. We are not an ordinary family. Soo-min, who had remained silent until then, finally found her voice. I'm not naive, Vice President. I know very well the difference between your world and mine. But feelings don't choose status. I never asked for any of this. Soo-jin's eyes narrowed. If that's the case, prove it. Stay away from my brother. If you really care about him, you'll understand that this relationship will never have a happy ending. Silence filled the room. Soo-min's chest ached, as if every word from Soo-jin was a precise blow. She looked at Ji-hoon, searching for answers, but found only a pleading look, asking her not to give in. You need to decide, Soo-min, Jae-hoon said softly. Walking away is the easy choice. But we both know nothing about us has been easy from the start. I'm willing to fight. Are you? Soo-min felt a whirlwind of emotions within her. Leaving was the safest path. But would it be the right one? Not knowing which direction to take, she lowered her head and said with a trembling voice, I need time to think. Ji-hoon seemed hurt, but respected her decision. Soo-jin, on the other hand, smiled victoriously. That means you already know the answer. Soo-min left the office feeling shattered. However, she knew a decision needed to be made, and when the moment came, no one could make it for her. The days that followed were torture for Han Soo-min. Since the conversation with Kang Soo-jin, her mind had been torn between reason and heart. Ji-hoon sought her out, but she avoided him. She knew that if she saw him, her resolve might crumble. Yet, she couldn't stop thinking about him. Life at the company went on, but the whispers grew louder. Rumors that Ji-hoon was facing problems with the Kang Group board spread quickly. Many believed he was on the verge of losing his position. The pressure from his family intensified, and Soo-jin did everything she could to steer him away from that reckless decision. One night, as she left the office, Soo-min found Ji-hoon waiting for her at the entrance of the building. He looked exhausted, but his gaze still carried that unshakable determination. Soo-min, I can't wait any longer. I know you're scared, but I want you to look into my eyes and tell me that you don't feel the same, that everything we've shared was a mistake. If you say that, I'll leave. His words hit her like a ton of bricks. Soo-min felt the tears welling up in her eyes. Her heart screamed that she couldn't let him go. I tried to fight this, she said, her voice trembling. But I love you, Jae-hoon, and I'm scared. Scared of hurting you. Scared of being a burden in your life. Ji-hoon smiled, relieved. The only mistake would be separating because of fear. I've faced my family, the board, everything for you, and I'll do it as many times as it takes. In that moment, Soo-min knew there was no turning back. She ran into his arms and, under the city lights, kissed him with all the intensity of her suppressed love. The fight wasn't easy. Soo-jin tried to stop him. The company's board threatened to remove him from the CEO position, and the newspapers exploited the forbidden romance between a billionaire and an ordinary employee. But Ji-hoon remained resolute, and surprisingly, it was the president of Kang Group, his father, who intervened. If you're willing to risk everything for her, then prove you can keep this company standing. If you succeed, no one will have the right to question your decision. Ji-hoon worked tirelessly to stabilize the business, proving that his love for Soo-min was not a distraction, but rather his greatest strength. Months later, he remained as CEO, and the relationship between him and Soo-min became public and accepted. A year later, in an emotional ceremony, Kang Ji-hoon and Han Soo-min were married, surrounded by friends and family. Even Kang Soo-jin reluctantly attended the wedding, admitting that she had never seen her brother so happy. Their love overcame all the challenges, proving that when two souls are meant to be together, nothing can separate them. And so, Ji-hoon and Soo-min embarked on a new phase of their lives, ready to build a family based on what truly mattered: true love.